Before we start, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It was a warm Saturday evening in Austin, Texas. The kind of evening where the smell of barbecue mixed with live music drifting from downtown and laughter rolled over like lazy thunder from backyard to backyard. Our house was packed. Friends from Charlotte's yoga class, her old sorority sisters, a few neighbors from the subdivision, and some of my veterinary colleagues who were clearly out of place, but came because they were kind. I'd spent 12 hours that day performing complex orthopedic surgery on a German Shepherd's torn ACL. Real precision, real consequences, real value. The kind of work where millimeters matter and there's no room for ego or performance. Just skill, steady hands, and the knowledge that someone's beloved companion was counting on me getting it right. Unlike Charlotte's content creation, which seemed to involve mostly photographing avocado toast and calling it a career. I stood near the pool with a glass of sweet tea, making small talk with Donovan Walsh from the clinic when Charlotte's voice sliced through the hum of conversation like a scalpel through tissue. Let's be honest, I didn't marry Wesley because we were in the same league. She laughed loud enough to draw every eye toward her poolside throne. He's sweet, but come on, we all know who the catch is here. Anyway, he's below my level. The laughter that followed wasn't full. It was nervous, fragmented. A few chuckles died halfway through like wounded animals. Someone coughed. I felt my chest tighten, but I didn't move. I just looked at her, my wife of 8 years, standing there with a champagne flute and that tight, smug smile she'd perfected over time. Her designer swimsuit cover-up shimmered under the string lights like a warning sign. She knew exactly what she was doing. In veterinary medicine, we have a term for this kind of behavior: resource guarding. When an animal becomes aggressive to protect something they perceive as theirs, even when there's no actual threat. Charlotte was resource guarding her social status, and apparently I was the resource she needed to diminish to make herself feel bigger. "Careful, Charlotte," I said calmly, my voice level and low. "Your memory might be fuzzy after all those unpaid influencer collabs, but it was my below-your-level veterinarian salary that bought this house and those Louboutins you're wearing." Her eyes flicked to me, that smile faltering just for a moment. Silence rippled across the guests like a slow-moving wave. Donovan shifted beside me, probably wondering if he should start looking for the exits. "You really want to do this now?" she asked, voice clipped, sharp as a broken bottle. "Because if you think throwing your job in my face makes you look like a man, you're more pitiful than I thought." I took a breath, slow and steady, the same way I breathed before making the first incision. Calm, focused, knowing that everything that follows depends on this moment. "I don't need to prove I'm a man, Charlotte. Not to you, not to anyone. I've spent the last decade building a life with you while saving animals, running a clinic, showing up. And you've shown up just long enough to insult me in front of strangers." Someone shifted awkwardly near the tiki bar. The music still played in the background, but nobody was dancing anymore. It reminded me of those moments in surgery when everything goes quiet, when everyone in the room knows something critical is happening and they hold their breath, waiting to see which way it goes. Charlotte stepped forward, her voice thick with sarcasm. "So you're what now? Some kind of martyr?" I met her eyes steady. "No, just a man done being used as your punchline." The funny thing about Charlotte's little performance was how predictable it had become. Like a dog with separation anxiety, acting out because it doesn't know how to process what's happening. I set my glass down on the pool deck railing, turned to the crowd, and offered a slight nod. "Thank you all for coming. Hope you enjoy the rest of the evening." Then I turned back to Charlotte. My voice didn't rise, didn't tremble. It had the same calm authority I use when explaining a difficult diagnosis to worried pet owners. "Let's see how you live without me." She blinked once, hard, and I walked, keys in hand. I slid into the driver's seat of my truck, the same F-150 I'd had since veterinary school. Reliable, practical, unpretentious. Everything Charlotte had stopped being somewhere along the way. The street outside was quiet, stars lost behind the gauzy haze of Texas humidity. As I pulled away, the cheers and chatter behind me were gone. Just the sound of tires over asphalt, just my own pulse in my ears. "My name is Wesley Brooks. I'm a veterinarian. I run a small animal clinic in Austin. I make good money, pay my taxes, remember birthdays, and always take the trash out on time. I've held dying animals in my arms and felt them take their last breath. I've delivered puppies at 3 in the morning and watched their first moments of life. I've had to tell children that their best friend isn't coming home. I deal with real life, real death, real consequences every single day. And tonight, I drove away from a woman who used to be my home, but had somehow become just another problem I couldn't fix. Under that dark Texas sky, I wasn't angry. Not yet. Just quiet and done, like the moment after you've made the hardest decision of the day and know there's no going back. Back at the house, the air felt different. Too still, too clean, like it already knew I didn't belong there anymore. I walked through the foyer, flicked on a light, and set down my keys without a sound. It was a good house, nothing fancy, but enough. Granite countertops, hardwood floors, photos lining the hallway. Most of them us, back when us meant something other than a tax filing status. I paused at one particular photo, our wedding day, Charlotte beaming in her dress that cost more than most people's cars. I remember thinking that day that I was the luckiest man alive. Funny how perspective changes. Now I could see what I'd missed then, the way she positioned herself just slightly in front of me, the way her smile seemed aimed at the camera rather than at me, the way even on our wedding day, I was already becoming her supporting character. I didn't hesitate. I went straight to the bedroom, grabbed the suitcase from the back of the closet, and laid it flat on the bed like a surgical plan finally decided. One shirt at a time, quiet hands, steady breath. I folded each one like I was sealing up a piece of something that didn't serve me anymore. The anger had burned out on the drive home, replaced by a strange clarity. This wasn't just about the party that had just lit the match. It was everything underneath. The systematic way she'd diminished my work over the years. Just a vet, she'd say, like saving lives was somehow less important than getting free makeup samples from companies desperate for social media mentions. Charlotte's influencer career had about as much substance as her apologies. All surface, no foundation, and completely dependent on other people's money. The door slammed downstairs. Fast steps. Then, "Wesley!" Her voice was higher than usual, laced with fake brightness, the same tone she used in her Instagram stories when she was trying to sell something nobody needed. Charlotte swept into the room like a summer storm that didn't know where to land. Still in that same cover-up, makeup just a little smeared. "Okay, wow," she said with a forced laugh, eyeing the suitcase. "So what is this? Some kind of dramatic exit?" I didn't answer, just kept folding. In my line of work, you learn to read body language, fight or flight responses, stress signals, defensive posturing. Charlotte was exhibiting all of them, but she was trying to mask it with bravado, like a scared cat puffing up to look bigger than it actually is. "Come on," she said, walking closer. "That party was a joke. You know how girls are. They don't remember anything. I was just teasing. Don't tell me you're really taking that seriously." I placed a pair of socks beside the folded jeans, still silent. The thing about working with animals is that they can't lie to you. When a dog is in pain, it shows. When a cat is scared, you know it. When something is broken, you see it clearly. Humans, on the other hand, have perfected the art of deception, especially self-deception. Charlotte had convinced herself that 8 years of marriage were just teasing. Charlotte crossed her arms. "Wesley, really? You're going to give me the silent treatment now? Grow up." I paused for a second, then looked at her. Calm. "I'm not angry," I said. "I'm just done talking to someone who only listens when she's losing something." Her jaw clenched. "Wow, okay, so now you're the victim." "No." I zipped the side pocket. "Just the man packing his own suitcase while the woman he married stands there pretending she doesn't know why." She walked to the edge of the bed, fingers trailing over the dresser, eyes darting. It reminded me of the way animals behave when they're in an unfamiliar environment, looking for escape routes, testing boundaries. "Wesley, don't do this. We've had worse fights." "This wasn't a fight," I said. "It was a performance and you had an audience." "Oh, come on," she scoffed. "I was joking. You're being sensitive." I looked at her, really looked, and something in me broke just a little. Not in anger, but in recognition. The version of Charlotte I'd built my life with was gone. Or maybe she'd never been there in the first place. Maybe I'd just been so good at seeing what I wanted to see that I'd missed what was actually there. "You belittled me in front of strangers," I said. "You mocked me like I was a burden. And now you want to laugh it off because I didn't play along." Her voice sharpened. "You always do this. Take everything to heart. I swear you make everything so dramatic." I closed the suitcase slowly, pressing the zipper shut. "No, Charlotte, I made everything work, while you were busy looking for ways to feel above me." She blinked. That landed, but instead of softening, she bristled. It's the same response you see in aggressive animals when they're cornered. Instead of backing down, they double down. "I gave up a lot for this marriage too, you know," she snapped. "You act like I've just been sitting around painting my nails while you save the world." I nodded slightly. "If you believe that, then maybe we've both been living in different marriages." Her silence stretched between us like a taut suture line. "I don't want to lose you," she said suddenly, voice quieter, and for just a moment I heard something real underneath all the performance. But it was too late for moments. I walked to the door, suitcase in hand. "You didn't lose me, Charlotte. You threw me away." And then I left. Not with a slam, not with anger, just a quiet click of the front door behind me and a silence inside that would echo long after I was gone. By noon the next day, I had the keys to a third-floor walk-up overlooking a row of old live oaks downtown. The building was quiet, mostly young professionals and a few retired folks who still read physical newspapers. It wasn't much. 2 bedrooms, hardwood floors, and walls painted in uninspiring beige, but it was mine. For the first time in years, I could breathe without wondering when the next storm would hit. The apartment had that clean, empty smell of possibility. No lingering perfume from expensive bottles Charlotte never seemed to finish. No constant buzz of ring lights and camera equipment for her content creation sessions. Just silence and space and the faint scent of coffee from the shop downstairs. I didn't bring much with me, just the clothes I'd packed, a couple of tools from the garage, and the coffee maker Charlotte never liked because it didn't match the kitchen backsplash. I set it on the counter like a flag in new territory. That coffee maker had been a gift from my veterinary school graduation. Practical, reliable, built to last. Everything my marriage apparently wasn't. That first evening, I sat on the edge of the worn couch the landlord left behind, sipping black coffee and listening to the hum of distant traffic. There was peace in that nothingness, a kind of stillness I hadn't realized I missed. It reminded me of those quiet moments in surgery when the patient is stable, the procedure is going well, and for just a moment, everything in the world makes sense. The next few days fell into a rhythm. Morning surgery schedules, afternoon appointments, evening rounds. The work was the same, but somehow it felt different. Cleaner, more purposeful. I wasn't rushing home to face whatever mood Charlotte was in, wasn't bracing myself for another critique of my lack of ambition or my boring career choice. Tuesday brought a particularly complex case, a golden retriever named Max who'd been hit by a car. Multiple fractures, internal bleeding, the kind of surgery that requires hours of focused attention and absolute precision. As I worked, repairing bone and tissue, I realized this was what I was good at. This was what mattered. Not performing for Charlotte's friends, not playing the perfect husband for her social media lifestyle. Just this. Healing, fixing, making something broken whole again. The irony wasn't lost on me. I could save Max, but I couldn't save my marriage. Some things, once they're damaged beyond a certain point, are better off being put out of their misery. It's a hard lesson in veterinary medicine, but an honest one. Then came Thursday evening. 3 knocks at the door. Quick, desperate. I didn't move right away. I knew that rhythm, but it wasn't Charlotte's. Too controlled, too polite. When I opened the door, Grace Patterson stood there under the flickering hallway light. Charlotte's closest friend, her maid of honor, her partner in crime for 8 years. Grace looked uncomfortable, shifting her weight from foot to foot like a dog that needs to go outside but doesn't know how to ask. She wore a cardigan despite the Austin heat, arms wrapped around herself defensively. "Wesley," she said, "I hope you don't mind me coming by." I leaned against the door frame studying her. In my profession, you learn to read anxiety in body language. Grace was exhibiting all the classic signs: elevated breathing, fidgeting, avoiding direct eye contact. "How did you get my address?" "Charlotte," she admitted, then quickly added, "but she doesn't know I'm here." Interesting. Pack dynamics at work. Grace was operating outside the group hierarchy, which meant either she was genuinely concerned or Charlotte had sent her as a scout. My money was on genuine concern. Grace had always been the most honest of Charlotte's friends, the one who occasionally called out bad behavior when everyone else just laughed along. "Can I come in?" she asked. "I just need 5 minutes." I stepped aside. She walked in carefully, like she was entering a crime scene and didn't want to disturb evidence. Her eyes took in the sparse apartment, the lone coffee maker, the folding table, the complete absence of anything that screamed midlife crisis or revenge living. "It's very..." she started, then stopped. "Clean," she finished diplomatically. "Thank you," I said. "I was going for functional." She almost smiled at that. Almost. "Wesley, I need you to know that what Charlotte did at the party was awful. I was mortified. We all were." I didn't respond, just waited. In veterinary medicine, sometimes the best diagnostic tool is silence. Let the client talk. Let them reveal what's really going on underneath the presenting symptoms. Grace shifted uncomfortably. She's been different lately. Before the party, I mean. More aggressive, more insecure, more honest, I suggested. Grace winced. "Maybe, but I think it comes from fear. You've been pulling away for months, Wesley. She feels it, even if she doesn't understand it." I walked to the kitchen, gestured to the coffee maker. Grace shook her head. "You want to know what I think?" I asked, leaning against the counter. "I think Charlotte got comfortable thinking she was the prize and I was the contestant. But somewhere along the way, she forgot that even game shows eventually end." Grace was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was smaller. "She misses you. She's scared." "She's scared of losing her security," I corrected. "There's a difference." Grace's shoulders sagged slightly. She looked around the apartment again, taking in the deliberate simplicity of it all. "You know what the hardest part of my job is?" I asked. Grace shook her head. "It's not the surgeries or the life and death decisions. It's having to explain to someone that their pet can't be saved, that sometimes love isn't enough, that holding on when you should let go only causes more suffering." Grace was quiet, processing. "You think that's what this is?" "I think Charlotte loved the idea of being married to a veterinarian more than she loved the veterinarian," I said. "And I think she's mourning the lifestyle, not the man." Grace stood, smoothing down her cardigan. "Maybe you're right, but people can change, Wesley. Even Charlotte." "Maybe," I agreed. "But that's her work to do, not mine." She walked to the door, then paused. "For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. Leaving, I mean. She needed to see what losing you actually looked like." After Grace left, I sat back on the couch with my coffee, thinking about what she'd said. The apartment felt even quieter somehow, but not empty, just intentional. Like everything in it had a purpose, including me. Over the next few weeks, I settled into a routine that felt almost meditative. Work filled my days, a steady stream of wellness checks, vaccinations, the occasional emergency surgery that reminded me why I'd chosen this profession in the first place. Evenings were for reading, something I'd barely had time for during the Charlotte years. She'd always found ways to fill our downtime with social obligations, networking events, dinner parties where I was expected to be charming and supportive while she worked the room like a politician running for office. Now I could lose myself in books about surgical techniques, veterinary journals, even the occasional novel. I rediscovered the pleasure of learning something just because it interested me, not because it would help me perform better in Charlotte's social theater. The bookstore on 4th Street became a regular haunt. Narrow aisles, uneven floors, the kind of place where the coffee smelled stronger than the paper and the staff actually read the books they recommended. It was there, 3 weeks after Grace's visit, that I ran into her again. I was browsing the veterinary medicine section. Yes, they actually had one, tucked between philosophy and poetry, when I heard a familiar voice behind me. "Still expanding your professional knowledge, I see." I turned. Grace stood there with a worn copy of something that looked like literary fiction, smiling more genuinely than she had at my apartment. "Continuing education requirements," I said with a slight grin. "What's your excuse?" She held up her book. "Escapism. Though I'm starting to think reality might be more interesting than fiction lately." We found ourselves in the small cafe section, sitting across from each other with mismatched mugs and the comfortable ease of two people who'd already had the hard conversation. "How is she?" I asked, not because I was wavering, but because 8 years of marriage don't just disappear, even when they probably should. Grace stirred her tea thoughtfully. "Struggling. Really struggling. The influencer thing isn't paying the bills like she thought it would. Turns out brands want engagement numbers she doesn't actually have." I nodded. Charlotte had always been better at buying followers than earning them. "She's had to get a real job," Grace continued. "Part-time at a boutique downtown. It's humbling for her." "Good," I said, and meant it. Humility might be the first honest emotion she's felt in years. Grace studied my face. "You're not going to ask how much trouble she's in financially, are you?" "No," I replied. "That would imply it's my problem to solve." She leaned back in her chair. "You really have changed. The old Wesley would have been writing checks by now." "The old Wesley was an enabler," I said. "Turns out there's a difference between being supportive and being a crutch." We talked for another hour about books, about work, about everything except Charlotte. It was refreshing, talking to someone from that world who could see me as something other than Charlotte's husband or Charlotte's ex-husband. Just Wesley, the guy who liked to read and happened to save animals for a living. When we parted ways, Grace squeezed my shoulder. "You look good, Wesley. Peaceful. I'm happy for you." Walking back to my apartment, I realized she was right. I did feel peaceful. Not the artificial calm of avoiding conflict, but the genuine peace that comes from living authentically. That evening, I cooked myself a real dinner. Nothing fancy, just a steak and some vegetables, and ate it at my small table while reading about new developments in orthopedic veterinary surgery. No conversation about social media metrics, no requests to be more engaging with her friends, no subtle hints that my work wasn't impressive enough for dinner party conversation. Just me, learning about something I was passionate about in a space that was entirely my own. My phone buzzed once, a text from Donovan asking if I wanted to grab drinks after work tomorrow. I smiled and texted back, yes. When was the last time I'd made social plans that weren't centered around Charlotte's agenda? As I got ready for bed, I caught my reflection in the bathroom mirror. Grace was right. I did look different. Younger somehow, despite everything that had happened. Like I'd been holding my breath for years and could finally exhale. Tomorrow would bring new cases, new challenges, maybe even new possibilities. But tonight, I was content to simply exist in my own space, making my own choices, living my own life. For the better part of 2 months, life continued in that steady rhythm. Work, books, the occasional drink with Donovan, weekend farmers market visits where I could buy actual fresh vegetables instead of whatever expensive organic nonsense Charlotte had ordered online. I was discovering what my preferences actually were when they weren't filtered through someone else's expectations. Then came the call that would change everything. It was a rainy Thursday evening, the kind that turned every window into a watercolor. I had the radio on low and was reviewing case files from the day. A successful hip replacement on an aging German Shepherd, a routine spay that went perfectly, the kind of day that reminded me why I'd chosen this profession. My phone rang. Lily Anderson, Charlotte's younger sister, now in her final year at UT. Sweet kid, sharp as a scalpel, and the only member of Charlotte's family who'd ever seemed to see me as more than just Charlotte's accessory. I hesitated, then answered. "Hey, Lily." She sounded out of breath, like she'd been pacing. "Wesley, hey, I hope this isn't weird calling you." "It's fine. What's going on?" There was a pause, then a sigh that seemed to carry years of family drama. "I thought you should know. Charlotte went to Mom and Dad's last night. She was a complete mess." I sat up straighter. "What kind of mess?" "The kind where she cried through the whole dinner," Lily said. "She didn't even eat, just sat there telling them everything. That she messed up her marriage, that you walked away because she deserved it, that she doesn't blame you." I said nothing, just listened. "She told them you didn't yell," Lily continued, "that you didn't insult her or make a scene, you just left, and that somehow that broke her more than if you'd screamed." The rain picked up outside, drumming against the windows like impatient fingers. She said you were the best person she ever had and that she treated you like a convenience. That's the word she used. Convenience. I ran a thumb along the rim of my coffee mug. She asked Mom for help with the mortgage. Swallowed every ounce of pride she had. You know Charlotte. She never admits fault. Never lets them see her cry, but last night she broke. I closed the case files, focusing entirely on Lily's voice. Wesley, she said after a moment. I'm not calling to guilt you. I know how badly she hurt you. I was there, remember? I saw your face during that party, but I thought maybe hearing it from me would help, in case she never works up the nerve to say it herself. Why now? I asked quietly. Because I've never seen my sister this raw, Lily said. She's not performing anymore. She's just human, scared and broken and finally honest about it. I took a long breath. Is she okay? She will be, Lily said eventually. But she's different, really different. The influencer thing is done. She got a full-time job at a marketing firm downtown. Real work, real hours, real consequences. That's good, I said, and meant it. She's been going to therapy too, Lily added. Individual therapy, not couples counseling or anything like that, just working on herself. I think she finally realized that you can't fix a marriage when one of the people in it doesn't know who they are. After we hung up, I sat in the quiet apartment, thinking. 2 months ago, this call would have sent me rushing back, ready to fix everything and everyone. Now I just felt curious. Not about whether Charlotte had really changed, that would take time to prove, but about whether the person I'd become could coexist with whoever she was becoming. 3 days later, the knock came, soft, uncertain, nothing like the confident Charlotte I'd known. When I opened the door, she looked smaller somehow. No makeup, hair in a simple ponytail, wearing jeans and a sweater that looked like they came from Target, not some boutique with a name I couldn't pronounce. Wesley, she said, voice barely above a whisper. Can we talk? I studied her face for a moment, looking for signs of performance, of manipulation. I found none, just exhaustion, and something that looked like hope, but the careful kind, the kind that's been disappointed before. Come in. She entered slowly, like she was visiting a museum, respectful of the space, careful not to disturb anything. She sat on the edge of the couch, hands folded in her lap. I've been trying to figure out what to say for weeks, she began. I kept writing these long letters, practicing speeches, but none of it felt right because it was still me trying to perform my way back into your life. I sat across from her waiting. So I'm just going to tell you the truth, she continued. I was terrified of you. Not physically, but spiritually, I guess. You're good, Wesley. Really good. And I was so afraid that if I let myself be real around you, you'd see that I wasn't good enough. So, instead, you decided to make me feel like I wasn't good enough? She flinched. Yes. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry for all of it, but especially for that party. For making you feel small so I could feel big. For treating your kindness like weakness and your love like a given. We talked for 3 hours that night. Really talked, maybe for the first time in years. She told me about therapy, about the job, about learning to live on her own and realizing how much of herself she'd lost in the process of trying to be someone she thought I wanted. I told her about the peace I'd found, about not wanting to go back to what we were but being curious about what we could become. When she left, we both knew this was just the beginning of a much longer conversation.